happened. And I'm a teacher from the UK. I've been trained there. And I've been teaching for a long time, 2002 onwards. And video recording is something we were using back then when I was learning how to become a teacher. It's that old. And I think it's one of the best ways for a teacher to learn where they're going wrong across there. And it doesn't have to be that expensive. You could actually, use a camera like this and set up different points in your room and record yourself. Maybe you just want to practice your presentational skills. Am I pitching across? One of the things I learned was that I was doing a lot of inflections and a lot of hand movement going all over the place in my early days. I still do that, but I try to manage it really, really well. But somebody telling me that versus me looking at it, it's quite powerful, that one. So if you are thinking about this, and especially if I'm thinking about schools who probably don't have the infrastructural support to set something like this up, you could look at recording things across using mobile cameras, provided you have that trust between colleagues, and then see if it can take off from that particular one. Right, so we're just trying to see if that's set up, and then I can begin, because I've got something cool for you. I'll speed things up across, and I'm going to try to see if I can time myself accordingly. This presentation has been designed with the help of children. So the children that you're going to, that you will see, and the ones to help make this, are about 10 to 11 years old, right? So these are some, in the UK curriculum system, these are year 6 students. And when I said that I was going to present at a conference about something that they enjoy doing, they said, we want to be involved. They helped make this. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to see here, provided it kind of kicks in, is driven by them. And the topic is gamification. We already had a presenter earlier on, which said, talked about games-based learning. This isn't it. This is about how can you look at why games work really, really well, and how can you distill the key essence that games-based learning has, and take it into a classroom where you don't have any technology. Now, I come from the British school in Delhi. Not a lot of people know that. Last year, we were the best school in the world. And I'm not talking about India, I'm talking about the world. There are educational Oscars called the International School Awards, and they're very difficult. There's a stringent, if you talk about the best people in the world, people at the level of Sir Ken Robinson and so forth, these are on the jury, who then decide whether a school is excellent. We have one in India, but not a lot of people know about that. Right, so they're still struggling? Do you not have an HDMI cable? Okay. Into a good old PowerPoint. So this is fail, especially if you're on a public platform like this or in an observational lesson, and you've got to be ready with plan B across, and then try to see if that goes through. So as soon as that's finished, could you transfer it and we'll see if it works? Okay, right, let's continue anyway. Right, so we have one of the best schools in the world here, but not a lot of people know about this. So the practices, as we were talking about earlier, that we have in our school might be quite useful for other schools to benefit from, but are we open to share? And that's one of the key things that we're looking through. The British school is opening up, and one of the reasons it's opening up is we look at where children come from. A lot of our children come from the diplomatic corps, but a lot of children are now coming across from, who studied in schools who we consider local schools, heritage pathways and so forth. When they come across, and if there's a gulf between our children and their education level, it causes us a huge amount of, I would say, issues. We need to make sure that these children are brushed up to our children's level, otherwise the teacher will have 2 different levels to differentiate in the classroom. So if we can educate and train the whole community to up the level, that means we are going to grow as a result. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here speaking to you. So, okay, gamification. Right, so what is gamification? Gamification is looking at why games are so popular. Why are games so popular? Well, KPMG did a survey, and the survey that they did suggested that 8% of Indian the Indian population are gamers. Now that means about 80 million. They did this in 2017 at that particular point in time. They predicted that by 2020, which is next year, that gaming population is going to be 31% of the Indian population. Now that is about, looking at how the population is growing, about 400 million people. The entire student population of India is 300 million. So we are looking at, okay, what is the mindset of our learner today? What do they like? How do they work? We looked at the profile of these learners, and the learners are male and less than 24 years of age. Right, let's see if this kicks in. We'll come through, so let's begin. Okay, that's the wrong one. Let's start with this one. Okay, right, so it was supposed to be quite interesting, and my good old friend should be here. Can we have the audio?
Mr. T! I'm sure you're here to talk about gamification and not games-based learning.
Okay, this is Anna from Year 6. Right, go ahead.
Teachers, let me explain the difference. Games-based learning is when you teach a topic through a game. Gamification of learning is when you use the principles that games are based upon, like levels, awards, and leaderboards in your normal lesson. Games-based learning almost always requires some technology. Gamification, however, can be used without technology. Isn't that wonderful?
It sure is, Anna.
Mr. T, can
Yes?
you tell the audience about how we learn these days?
Sure you can.
We learn from YouTube at a very early age. We pick up vocabulary, accents, and knowledge about the world.
I totally agree with that. I have a 6-year-old, and the 6-year-old can talk about strategy, monetization, noobs, pawns, trajectories. It's fantastic, and all he learned it from a game.
That's right. We love to be challenged, as long as those challenges are achievable. We like healthy competition which is fair and recognizes both our skill and our effort. We like being rewarded when we do things well. Why? Because it helps us motivate us. Everyone likes to be acknowledged from time to time, even adults. We love using technology, but we also understand that there are issues. So when teachers talk about balanced approach, it helps us make good use of technology. Okay, Mr. T, you can have the podium back.
Right. I'm sure that you'd rather listen to her. Do you want to continue, Anna?
Now, we gotta go play some games.
All right, thank you. Right, I'd like to say, can I have a round of applause for Anna? She worked so hard to get this video made. Now, why am I showing you this? That's because we're involving children in a game, right? We're giving them an experience which is way beyond what you'd expect in a normal classroom. She isn't here, yet she has a platform to talk to you, right? She created the video. The script was co-edited by myself, right? The recording was done by one of our students. We have something called a green screen, which allows you to remove the background, and we looked at all of this. Another student came across with a presentation. The color we chose was probably related to that at the background. So the kids are thinking about all of this when they're constructing this class. Right, so our school's motto is thrive, believe, and succeed. And I've covered all of this, so I'm going to skip this. The KPMG survey, the 31% jump, the profile, where we were at the moment. About an hour is what gamers spend every day. That's 365 hours of gaming, right? We were interested, okay, why aren't they doing homework? What was going on? Male under 24, very disparity in gender. So Nielsen did a report on gaming in India and suggested that's going to improve. More girls are going to start playing games, 33%. That means a third of that 450 million gamers are going to be girls, and that's going to improve over time as well. So we started looking at international research, why games are so popular. Carnegie Mellon did a fantastic research and said that in countries where gaming is embedded in, children, by the age of 21, spend 10,000 hours playing games. And this is a special number. The entire formal US education curriculum is 10,080 hours. So they spend just as much time playing games as in formal education. There's only a 3-year gap, 18 and 21. And if you know 10,000 hours, and if you're people who are into, sports, you will know that that's a magic figure about, what most coaches say, practice 10,000 times to become practice. What are they learning? I don't know, but they're picking something up and they're interested with it. And that interests me as an educator, right? Why? There's a story behind the picture as well, and if towards the end I'll probably talk to you about it if we have time. Then we went a bit more deeper. And if you're chemistry teachers, you should know this, but I'm not going to test you out right now. This is something called dopamine, right? A little chemical, a wonder drug, released when you achieve something. Very tiny dopamine, right? On a presentation, worked really well, dopamine, right? Games use that fantastically. Every time you achieve something in a game, a little chemical release is there. That's why they're addictive. So when you tell a child, stop playing games, they're used to this dopamine. But praying also releases dopamine. Reading also, and so many other things. Sports releases. Anything you like doing does that. But people say, praying, good. Dopamine, good. Gaming, bad. Dopamine, bad. So there's a whole talk about that at some point as well. So we looked at all of that. We looked at, do our current classroom climates, and I'm not talking about the British schools classroom here now, because as an educator, my remit should not be my classroom. Yes, I'm in a position there where I can affect change and play with technology, so to speak. But I'm also interested in what's happening in classrooms across the world. We're part of a collective called Inspired, and we work with schools in Nepal and so forth, where they do not have access to basic sitting equipment. We work in schools where they have a pallet, a wooden pallet, and children have to sit on the pallet. And if they get up from the pallet, the teacher has a stick, and they whack the child to stay back on the pallet. Because if they go out, they might fall off a cliff. That's perched on that edge. Kids have to walk miles. We work in those schools as a collective. So I'm interested. How do I ensure that they are at least moving somewhere towards a modern 21st century learning without access to anything? Forget books. Seating equipment is an issue. So I'm interested. Games allow people to fail safely. You can try something as many times as you want. You persevere until you reach the objective. Our classrooms don't allow that. How many times do you get, people have talked about this already. We had a presenter talking about if you ask a question in a classroom and you get it wrong, the teacher tells you it's wrong. And that does harm to the child's confidence. So we need to kind of work on that as well. So we're interested. I don't know if you know Autodesk. Autodesk is a 3D modeling company. Every time a movie is released with 3D effects, people flock to their site and download a 3D modeling program from it. They want to make the model. They're like, oh, I saw the starship. Let's download the program. Let's see if we can make it. Once they start using it, they realize, hang on a second, this is really hard. We can't be 3D modelers. We can't be 3D designers. And they give up. Autodesk looked at that. And then they thought, well, okay, let's try something else. They built gamification into their learning program in the form of an adventure game. And they said, okay, you're traveling around the world as a secret agent. Here's a mission, do this. Here's a mission, do that. People started playing that particular tutorial. In the end, their stats were like this. 40% more people kept their software. 17% actually purchased it, models from their particular bit. Now that's a huge bit. If I equate it to education, what if you could have 40% people interested in STEM careers and 17% actually take it up at university and beyond? That's the equivalent that I'm looking through. So if games are so engaging, my question is, can we design our learning experiences to become just as engaging without technology? And that's where we're going. Okay, right, you're going to get people like this. My first post on this, I got a comment saying we're pandering to students. The gaming world, you know, we should be teaching human relationship skills. We shouldn't be pandering, and so on. And yes, there are people like that. And you've got to understand that there are going to be people who are not comfortable with this particular approach. Not everybody thinks the same way. So to that particular poster, my thinking is, A, they don't know what games and the difference between gamification is. Gamification is not playing video games. There's a need for that, but we're not talking about it. And then I'm telling to people across that, I don't see whether, this is Google Trends, something's wrong with the presentational screen, so maybe aspect ratio is on. But from 2010, Google Trends show that a lot of people are searching for it. In the last year or so, it's been the highest ever. Educators are searching for how to enable gamification in their classroom. Right, what else does it show? Almost all over the world, people are interested, apart from perhaps conflict-torn areas. And look at that. Bengaluru, that was a surprise to me. I thought like maybe you guys were probably looking up my session and you made it trend. But the fourth on the list of gamification cities is Bengaluru. And I think it's because of the tech industry, because they think a lot about gamification in business and so forth. So industry has it. Before I move on, technology has no aim. It does not solve world problems. Who solves world problems? We do. Right? So you've got to encourage your children to be creative, social. How do we do that? Well, start thinking about pedagogy. Again, Dilip Soman has a pathway across with Huang, and this was published in 2013. Gamification does not come in until the end. The bit that's missing is this one that you can't see really well, which is understand your audience and your context. Everything else you do. You follow your curriculum, your objectives, you structure your learning experience, book, worksheet, on a video, I don't know, whatever you do. You identify the resources needed, fine. And then you apply gamification. But most people jump in at this stage, and I've heard so many people talking about the curriculum. We don't think about the curriculum. We are guided by the curriculum, we don't think about it. We think about the learner at that particular rate. So how do we enable that? How does it work in non-tech classrooms? Well, basic stuff. You've been doing this for a while. Leaderboards, do you have that in your school? Games have leaderboards. Kids like challenge. We make them interactive. So our classrooms have leaderboards. We have things called going for gold, pastoral and behavior management if needs be, right? We have learner profiles. We have acquisition of skills. And the kids, as soon as they achieve a skill, go and move themselves up a level. Very competitive. So-and-so's on there, moved up a level. I have to move up a level. Doesn't cost much. Okay. Choice. We put challenges there. Games have levels, right? It's interesting. You up your skill. We do the same thing. We will put mysteries around the school. Random thing. We'll just think about it. Randomly decode me. I'm a computer science teacher, so I think about that. I will put that up. An English teacher will put something related. We tie in with what the children are actually doing. They're into Minecraft, they're into Fortnite, they're into Pokemon. We tap that. We structure our learning objective around what interests them, and that pushes it up. Doesn't cost anything. All it costs is some research, and if you've got a mobile phone, you can research what the latest trend is. So that works across. And all you see here is actually pupils' work. Year 2, moving up to year 4, year 6. And I'm not even going into higher standards yet. They do some fantastic stuff. Right, this stuff, bread and butter for teachers. Do you use this in your classroom? Rewards, points, badges, certificates. We all like these things, right? So when we're going across, if somebody came across to you and gave you and said, well done for working really, really hard, You know, you've achieved today's objective. Now tomorrow, I want you to aim for this one, right? I've just nicked them from Brainly, thank you. You can have those, you can pass it on, right? Now, if we do that, you motivate children to kind of move up. And they don't have to be this complicated. You can do stickers. You can draw things out and pin them, you know, with a safety pin if needs be, right? You can give them certificates for participation, create that adventure for them, that learning journey, make it exciting for them, and they will come across. We do all of this, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coder, and this is just for something that I would probably say about 7, 8 years old, and we move them across there. Very easy to implement. Okay, right. How did it make us go to the talk? If you've got technology, phenomenal. We use a platform called Manga High for mathematics. Children learn through gamification technologies, and then they apply in their classroom and in their notebooks, and it works. And this is about year 4. Year 4 is about 7, 8 years old probably. Okay, where did it take us? We started in 2016. We did a research project. That's where all the data analysis was done on research. We did a small-scale pilot with Manga High in 2017-18. We won 11 gold medals just with those 2-year groups. We have 160 children that I'm talking about in a school of 1,200. Very small school compared to some of the big ones. If you don't know what FOBICIA is, it's the Federation of British International Schools in Asia. This is the bee's knees, like the Ivy League schools in Asia, right? Alice Smith, Harrow, talk about them a lot. We beat them in our very first year. We did it again in our second year when we went whole school wide, and our gold medal tallies increased, right? Why are they important? Because their rewards push children to do more. It was so fantastic for us that this year we won another award, use of digital learning, or digital technology in learning, and that's to do with maths. Nothing to do with my subject, which is easy. I can talk about coding, computers, I have access to MacBooks, iPads, you name it, robotics, all of that's there. People aren't interested in that. If you got the money, you can do this. People are interested in how do you ensure that you're still using digital learning in classrooms with your maths teacher that has always taught maths the traditional way. And this was it. So it pushed us across the board. So if you want to find out more about this, please come up and have a look at my Twitter feeds, and you'll find that across. And we're moving beyond language development, something called Duolingo. Just yesterday, one of my MFL teachers texted that to me. Students love using it. Pin drop silence, according to her, because everybody was engrossed in learning. Does that equate to better quality learning? I don't know, but the fact is that the teacher is happy and satisfied. Now this uses iPads and apps, won't be possible in a normal classroom, I understand that. And the funny thing is, we do this with staff PD. I give badges to staff, we give trophies to staff. I had to make sure, as the head of technology, Firefly, which is our learning management system, had to be implemented across school. And if you are into change management, you know that people are the most difficult things to change, especially people who have been doing things a particular way. So we do annual awards. We reward people on stage, the whole team. Once we got one going, next year everybody jumped on board. Everybody wanted to have that trophy. So it works at all levels. Right, I'm going to leave you with this. Again, it's not showing up really well. This is John Dewey, who said this about a century ago. If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. If I don't know whether I'll be standing in another 100 years here. It'd be nice for the startup people to think of a technology to keep me here. But if someone's talking about the same thing 100 years from now, that means we as educators have failed to do our duty. And as Sir was stating, we've got to change with the times. And yes, my results in my classroom teaching traditionally are phenomenal. Why should I change? And if you are one of those educators, think this way. Sooner or later, your results are not going to be there. So if you don't put in the work now, you'll find yourself a couple of years down the line really out of date and out of practice. Thank you very much.